Hurricane Florence storms the East Coast, a live look from D.C., and Bird prepares for flight. This is OU Nightly. Wicked winds whip the American flag along the coast of North Carolina. Good evening. Thanks for joining us at OU Nightly. I'm Sydney Forsee.
And I'm Madeline Roberts. We begin with the breaking situation along the coast of North and South Carolina as Hurricane Florence moves even closer.
OU Nightly meteorologist Jenna joins us live with the very latest from the storm.
That's right, guys. So this is a live look at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. As you can tell, it is blustery out there as the outer bands of Hurricane Florence, which is currently a Category 2 hurricane, is making its way, bashing the coasts of the Carolinas. So this is a live camera feed right now. As you can tell, those waves are pretty high. Let's look at the radar of this zooming in. You can tell where the eye is right now, and it's kind of having an outer eye forming. That means it's going through an eye wall replacement cycle, or it's trying to at least, which means it could be strengthening the storm if this process is completed before landfall. However, we don't think that's going to happen, and wind shear is also not aiding the help of the storm trying to strengthen. So strengthening doesn't look like it'll be happening. But there are a few watches and warnings out right now. This is looking at some flood warnings up in North Carolina right now. But we'll have all of the latest as it continues to unfold later on in the show. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thank you, Jenna. As the storm moves in on the Carolinas, forecasters are saying that the rain could be measured in feet and not inches.
OU Nightly's Storm Jones has the latest on what officials in Washington are doing to prepare for the storm.
It has been a rainy day today here in Washington, but all eyes in the nation's capital are along the East Coast tonight as Hurricane Florence makes landfall in the Carolinas. However, President Trump started the day by denying the death toll in Puerto Rico from hurricanes from a year ago, tweeting 3,000 people did not die in the two hurricanes that hit Puerto Rico, claiming the death toll did not start rising till long after he had left the island. He added in a tweet, "This was done by the Democrats in order to make me look as bad as possible." Now, while the president didn't have any public events on his schedule today for reporters to press him on that false accusation, here's what he said yesterday about the impending Hurricane Florence.
Residents in the path of these devastating storms should comply with all evacuation orders and other emergency instructions. Protection of life is the absolute highest priority, and that's what we're doing. It's called protection of life.
And the Federal Emergency Management Agency says their resources are fully pre-positioned along the East Coast to assist local and state offices. And FEMA officials say it could be more than a week until power is brought back online and vital infrastructure restored following the hurricane. In Washington, D.C., Storm Jones, OU Nightly.
Thank you, Storm. And Mariah Conduff is in the News Center with more details on Hurricane Florence. Mariah?
Thanks, Sydney. As Hurricane Florence attacks the Carolinas, Thursday is the last day for a safe evacuation. Even though the wind speeds and flooding continue to increase, many individuals are refusing to leave their homes.
I'm hunkered down for the storm. I have generators, I have a gas stove, I have my house boarded up. I live on a hill and I'm 5 miles inland.
And
so.
who are these little ones right here?
This is my granddaughter. And
Hurricane Florence is expected to hover over the Carolinas with intense wind and flooding. It's sure to cause great damage to houses, power lines, and trees. And a Louisiana mayor reverses the city's ban on Nike products.
Acting upon advice from the city attorney, I have rescinded my memorandum of September 5th, 2018. That memorandum divided our city and placed Kenner in a false and unflattering light on the national stage.
In response to Nike's decision to market Colin Kaepernick as the face of their new Just Do It campaign, Mayor Ben Zahn of Kenner, Louisiana, placed a ban on the city's recreation departments from purchasing Nike products and selling them to the facilities. The ban has been reversed after receiving national criticism. And Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh is accused of sexual misconduct with a woman during his time in high school. California Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein referred a letter to federal investigators regarding Kavanaugh. Feinstein's office received information from a confidential source concerning Kavanaugh's alleged misconduct. They then passed along the information to the FBI for further investigation. And the number of migrant children detained by the government has reached an all-time high from 2,400 in May of 2017 to 12,800 as of today.
Thanks, Mariah. Our coverage of Hurricane Florence continues.
We'll be with you right after the break.
Welcome back. Is it time for Norman residents to say bye-bye birdie? Bird scooters have been flying around Norman and the OU campus ever since they arrived in the city, but not without some significant concerns. The city of Norman has asked Bird to remove the sitters from city property, citing concerns about proper licensing to operate the business and safety rules. Even if the city of Norman decided to impound scooters, OU will have to make its own decision about allowing them on campus property.
The OU campus is not officially city right-of-way. Our enforcement ordinances under the revocable license don't apply there, and so that's largely up to the university how they want to approach the scooters.
We'll let you know what both OU and Norman officials decide on the scooters in the future.
At the City Council meeting on Tuesday, the Norman Police Department was awarded a grant to provide advocates for victims of violent crimes. The police department already has partnerships with the Women's Outreach Center, Mary Abbott Children's House, and the Cleveland County DA's office. But these advocacy groups focus on domestic issues, child abuse, and sexual assault. The problem is 62% of all victims have no one to turn to. This grant gives Norman PD a chance to help some of the victims of violent crimes deal with the legal processes and the emotional burdens they go through. Grant manager John Steege believes this is a huge step for Norman PD and the victims they help.
An amazing tool that families can reach out to or victims can reach out to actually get access to things that help them move on in a healthy way.
Since the grant passed, the Norman PD will begin acting on this grant as soon as they find the right candidate. And Tori King joins us in this week's Health Beat and has the latest on an item that you might want to put on your watch list. Tori.
Thanks, Madeline. Watch out. During Apple's hardware event just yesterday, Apple unveiled its latest and greatest technologies. The Apple Watch comes with new and improved health and fitness features. This fourth generation item is the first of its kind to use an ECG device that tracks heart conditions and sends them straight to your doctor. This new watch also has a feature that can detect when you have fallen down, and if you haven't gotten up in over a minute, it can alert authorities for help. And also, we all know that cigarettes are out, but vaping is in. With everything from nicotine highs and customizable e-cigs to flavors that taste like bubblegum, this new form of smoking has become the social norm. Yet the FDA is cracking down on the USB-looking devices. This FDA has sent out 1,300 letters to recent retailers asking them to create tips on how to avoid sending to illegal minors. And with just over a fourth of the semester complete here at OU, I've got 5 health tips just for you to avoid the freshman 15. Don't skip breakfast. Even eating a small protein bar can help. Only stock up your dorms with healthy snacks to avoid fatty junk foods. Avoid drinking your calories. Water, Gatorade, and black coffee and teas are the way to go. And find a workout buddy and go to the Huff at least 3 times a week. Last tip is don't double up at the calf. Say no to getting seconds. And guys, I don't know about you, but not going back to the calf for seconds is the hardest thing for me. I mean, that unlimited Chick-fil-A bar, come on.
Oh, same here. I was always going back for more fries when I was at the calf.
I think I broke all 5 of those rules when I was a freshman. I'm
Same
not
here. Thank you, Tori.
Thanks, Tori.
And still ahead, we can continue our coverage of Hurricane Florence.
That's right. We are looking live at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, as Hurricane Florence approaches. The OU Nightly weather team is monitoring the hurricane's movements. Jenna Warner has that and a look at our local forecast when OU Nightly continues.
Back to OU Nightly, guys. Right now, this is footage from the International Space Station of Hurricane Florence. So this is really great footage taken from the International Space Station, of course, of the hurricane, as it's currently a Category 2 storm barreling down on the coast of the Carolinas as those outer bands are affecting it. Switching gears, we're going to look at our Smart R radar truck footage from inside the truck. So this is live footage taken from OU's research radar truck, which went out this past weekend to take data measurements for the hurricane and help out the weather community in any way they can. They take research samples and such of tropical weather as it affects the coast. And fun fact, my professor this semester, Dr. Biggerstaff, is actually aboard this truck right now. So it's awesome to be here and to be experiencing that here at OU. So the latest on Hurricane Florence, like I was saying, it's Category 2 storm. Winds right now 100 mile per hour and gusts at 120. So we have a state of emergency right now in North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, DC, and Georgia, and hurricane warnings out for South Carolina and North Carolina coasts. So we're going to track out Florence for the next 5 days for you guys. So it's projected to make landfall tomorrow morning, heading into North and South Carolina. This is where it will be Sunday afternoon around 1 p.m. It'll be farther inland in South Carolina, as it is projected to weaken as it heads inward. And then later on next week, it'll take a path up north through Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and even possibly reaching as far north as New York. So we're talking about those watches and warnings earlier. The darker orange is that hurricane warning color for most of the coasts right now. Farther inland, you'll notice a lighter orange highlighted for there. That's because a tropical storm warning is out for much of the inland coast, as it's expected to weaken as it heads inland. So projected rainfall totals, we're expected to see about 50 inches of rain when it's all said and done in portions of North Carolina. So that's one of the bigger threats with this storm. Another threat is the storm surge. So the storm surge could reach 13 feet in parts of North Carolina. So that'll be a big danger with this storm as well. So this is looking at a 4-box of the live cameras that we have right now set up across parts of North Carolina and South Carolina. This is the outside view of that radar truck we were talking about before. North Carolina, South Carolina, and this is North Carolina again. So it's very windy, as you can tell. Here's a graphic showing just how windy it is. These are sustained mile-per-hour wind speeds. So 34 miles per hour in parts of North Carolina. So that's very windy. Switching gears here, we're going to talk about current temperatures in Oklahoma. 81 degrees in Norman, 82 in OKC. So it's pretty warm out there right now. We're going to talk about radar and satellite. So there's not much going on right now in Oklahoma. We have a dry line out in the Panhandle, and that won't be affecting us as much. Lows for tonight, 69 in Norman and OKC, 71 in Tulsa and Muskogee. It's going to be fairly warm tonight. Fairly warm tomorrow, too, across the state. 94 in Guyman, 87 here in Norman and OKC. So drought monitor, we're looking at some drought conditions happening in southwestern Oklahoma. A lot in there in an extreme drought, but rounding out the next 2 days ahead, a warm south breeze affecting us. 87 degrees as our high tomorrow, 87 as our high on Saturday as well. Rounding out the forecast for the next 7 days, we do have a warm up coming in Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, but thank God that hurricane won't be affecting us here in Norman at all, right guys?
I'm glad we still have warm weather and clear skies coming up here in Oklahoma.
Yeah, it's weird to think about how windy and rainy it is over there when here we just have beautiful weather going on right now. And even Oklahoma can be pretty windy sometimes. I mean, those winds over there, I can't even comprehend how windy that is right now.
I just know that we are all thinking about the people in the Carolinas right now and hoping that they are safe and they're with their families.
Of course.
All right, thank you, Jenna.
Last year, the Iowa State Cyclones marched into Norman and beat the Oklahoma Sooners. The Sooners will look for revenge against the Cyclones on Saturday in Ames, Iowa.
And take a look at your live screen, you'll see Myrtle Beach Pier. Florence still hasn't made landfall, but we will continue tracking it as it moves. Stay with us.
Welcome back. The Sooners are on the road this weekend for their conference opener with the Iowa State Cyclones in Ames. Oklahoma is riding a 16 road game winning streak. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's that Iowa State doesn't care about streaks. Last year, the Clones stormed into Norman and stunned the Sooners, claiming their first victory in 27 years.
And we did. And so, I mean, they were, you know, a lot of people probably didn't believe it before our game, but obviously after our game, and they went on and beat TCU and several other really good football teams. I mean, people figured out pretty quick that these guys are good.
And Brooke Murski is here with a potential star in the making for the Sooners.
Thanks, Cal. The Sooner football team is putting up numbers this season. But on the defensive end, there's a player who's going above and beyond while impressing everyone who gets to see him play. Senior linebacker Curtis Bolton says he is willing to contribute anywhere he can, including some special teams work. It might not be glamorous, but when young players want to impress the coaches, this is where they can shine.
A lot of people don't take a special team serious, and I don't understand. You see it every game. There's a player, 2 or even 3, especially in tight games, and say it's a tight game, offense isn't getting started, and you have a punt return. From punt return for a touchdown, it's rare that team loses. Or same thing with if you block a punt, I couldn't tell you the last time I seen a team block a punt and lose. So it's just the fact that our coaching staff has made it, is very adamant about that. They're letting us know that this is important.
And it's time for Thursday night football. The Baltimore Ravens are headed to Cincinnati tonight to take on the Bengals in a divisional matchup. The Ravens are coming off a blowout home win over the Bills as they hit the road for the first time this season. Meanwhile, the Bengals went on the road and spoiled the return of Andrew Luck last week. And you may notice some familiar names on the field tonight as several former Sooners will be in action. Joe Mixon has taken the role of feature back for the Bengals, recording a touchdown last week. Rookies Mark Andrews and Orlando Brown contributed to the Sooners for years and now add depth for the Ravens. Also, Tony Jefferson is now in his second year anchoring the Ravens secondary. And over on the hardwood, the Seattle Storm completed the sweep of the Washington Mystics and are once again champions of the WNBA. The Storm came away with a 98-82 win thanks to a big night from Natasha Howard and Brianna Stewart. Sue Bird also added 10 points in the win and now has this title, 4 Olympic gold medals, and 2 NCAA titles. Hey, that's quite the resume. And we've heard of the turnover chain on the defensive side of the ball. Now here's one for the offensive side. Georgia high school coach Darian Carmichael is giving shots of syrup for each pancake block and touchdown. The coach attaches the syrup to his waistband so it's always ready to go. And, you know, I think we should bring this tradition to OU Nightly. So, guys, I've got your syrups ready for you to go right here.
You know, Kyle, I don't think this would incentivize me much because it doesn't smell very good. I don't think I would want to eat that.
I don't know how well syrup is going to go down either, you know.
Oh, yeah. I
think it might take a little bit, you know, a little bit of motivation to get that going down.
Definitely.
It does smell good.
I don't think so.
No? All right, well, thank you,
Thanks,
Cal.
Cal.
And coming up, we still check in on Hurricane Florence.
And we have a perfect story to inspire you.
I'm Emily Dunford at the OU Nightly Update Desk with the latest on the death of a Garfield County inmate. After being arrested for public intoxication, Anthony Hupp spent more than 2 days in a restraint chair before dying inside the Garfield County Jail in June of 2016. Earlier today, a prosecutor asked the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals to decide whether Sheriff Jerry Niles will go to trial over Huff's death. Sheriff Niles is on voluntary paid suspension. That's it for now. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Emily. And working out to lose weight isn't always fun, and sometimes we need a little motivation to be healthy.
That's right. If you are lacking motivation today, hopefully this story will inspire you. A woman in Iowa worried that her cat George was getting too fat when he tipped the scales at 17 pounds.
George is now hitting the gym, walking on a treadmill after receiving laser treatment at the vet. So if a cat can do it, so can you. And Jenna, you have a little bit more about Hurricane Florence, right?
That's right. So we saw a view from the International Space Station earlier. Well, this is a similar kind of view. This is satellite looking at this storm as it bears down on the coast of the Carolinas. As you can't really see an eye right now, as I was talking about before, it's going through that eye wall replacement cycle, and we'll see how it ends up with that. Stay tuned on OU Nightly on social media for all the latest with that.
All right, thank you, Jenna.
Thanks, Jenna. And thank you for watching OU Nightly. We leave you with another look at Cape Fear, North Carolina.
We'll see you back here tomorrow night with more Hurricane Florence updates live at 4:30. Good night.